Hello, hello, Facebook family. Elevate, Facebook Live, The Seduction of Pessimism. Elevate, Facebook Live, The Seduction of Pessimism. How you guys doing today? Hope everybody's doing well. Let me get to the comments page so I can see who's out there. Please put your name in the city so I can know you're out there. Other words, I will not know. Hope you guys are doing well. It's Humpback Wednesday. And I know this week has been the last couple of days been pretty busy. I know I've been in some meetings. Char's been busy. Um, I'm trying to look up a date while I got you guys coming on, but I guess I just won't quote that date. So anyway, Elevate, Facebook Live, The Seduction of Pessimism. Like always, very excited about this subject. Hey, Aunt Stephanie. Hey, Mom and Dad. Uh, the Seduction of Pessimism. The Seduction of Pessimism is the topic today. And definitely all these, I'll have topics lined up and I'll be excited about them, start kind of uh, putting some flesh to them, and then something will happen in my life and it'll just stand out and I kind of run with it. And that's what this is for sure. Seduction of Pessimism is definitely something that grows strongly with me, and you'll see as we go through it. But I'm going to start off with thanks for joining us today. Most of you know me. For those of you who don't, we're definitely talking about the people that look at this recording. I'm Curtis Carr. I'm the founder of the leadership company called E.L.E.V.A.T.E. Char is a partner with me in this, my wife, and I've been in leadership for over 30 years. Char has been a business analyst and project manager for over 11 years. And she's been running her own business for 9 years. So Elevate stands for expectations, leadership, ethics, vision, attitude, temperaments, and effectiveness. And what we do is we do coaching and we do training. And I always like to highlight that we are practitioners. I'm not going to be the most eloquent in speech, but I can tell you for sure that I can get you to where you want to be if you're committed. So, and Char's the same way. She can do the same thing. It's about being committed. This is not something that's foreign to us. We get paid for what we do in real life. And if we were ineffective, we would not be in this arena. This is not an arena where ineffective people continue to get paid. That's for sure. So at the end of the day, I want to do a shout out to life and life's challenges. How's that, Char? A shout out to life and life's challenges. So on a personal note, we're going to have a fishing trip. Our company does this annual fishing trip, and it's fun. I'm not a big people person, so I'd rather sit at home. But at the end of the day, we go to a offsite location and fish with some of the leaders of the company. It's usually about 75 of us, maybe 60 of us. And we do bougie. I call it bougie fishing because somebody's going to put the bait on the hook for us, and I enjoy it that way. So at the end of the day, and then we of course we gamble on who's going to win because we're very competitive. So usually it's about 8 boats. Hey Ann, how you doing? Hey Karen, how you doing? So usually it's about 8 boats, and we have a captain on the boat, and sometimes there'll be a helper, and we'll go out early in the morning, and then once we come back, they load up those fish. After they weigh them and figure out who won, they cook them. We come back that night and eat the fish. So it's I didn't go last year, but I've been going every year. It's good times for the most part. So, but basically, today's is about life and life challenges because there's a lot of stuff going on in my world and in Char's world. Won't get into the details, but it's just regular stuff. Just trying to make things happen and trying to get to the next level and trying to develop, try to build, hiring people. One day I'm going to have a personal assistant. I'm going to be like the big dogs out there. I'm not making enough money to do that right now. I think you need to get up to about 2 more levels before you have a personal assistant that's worth anything anymore. You don't want to have somebody just to have somebody, right? They got to have some skills. So at the end of the day, the shout out is to life and life's challenges. But I have these jokes today. And sounds like team building, right? Have these jokes today. And if you know any of these, I think I shared some of these with Shar. So if you know anything, these Shar, you can't say anything, please. Okay.
Okay.
All right. I know that's gonna be hard because she's gonna be like, she's gonna say it because she's. So the first one is, what are the strongest days? What are the strongest days? Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. What are the strongest days? Do you remember that one, Shar? Did I say that one already?
No, you told me that.
Oh no, I lost connection. Aunt Stephanie got jokes lately, huh? Maybe we need to let her do the joke section. What are the strongest days? Sunday through Saturday. What are the strongest days? How you doing, Aunt Stephanie? Saturday and Sunday are, because the other ones are weekdays. You get it? The other ones are weekdays. What do you call a fish with no eyes? What do you call a fish with no eyes? Do you know this one? Sure, I don't know this one. What did y'all think about that last one? What do you call a fish with no eyes? Ann said grown. A fish with no eyes is called a fish because it doesn't have an eye. Get it? Char looked irritated on that. It's like you wasted my time. That's definitely said the first one was so-so. I'll take a so-so at this point. What do you call a group of killer whales playing instruments? What do you call a group of killer whales playing instruments? Ann said that's a stretch. She said so-so. I don't know. It's more funny to hear y'all replies. What do you call a group of killer whales playing instruments? Shar, anything? An orchestra. Orca? An orchestra. You get it?
I don't get it.
They're called orcas. Killer whales are called orcas.
Who knows that?
Orchestras. Come on, somebody, help me. That's a good one. That's a good one.
I didn't know killer whales was called orca.
Okay, so anyway, maybe I'm the only one that went to SeaWorld. You know, they taught us that at SeaWorld when I was a little kid. Orchestra. Anyway. All right, anyway, we go to on. I think this is I'd have bought up two in the last 4 weeks. I'm not doing too well in the jokes. But anyway, we're going to be talking about seduction of pessimism. And the way we conduct our Facebook lives is we depend on your comments. We demand. Sure, I wish it was that easy. We depend on it really because that's what provides the interaction. So, and then we start at 7 and we'll end promptly at 7:30. So my plan is to read every comment. We also encourage you to like and share. Orcas just learned something new. Well, see, there it was. Nothing else is good on here. I definitely learned that an orca was a killer whale. All right. So thanks everyone for your participation so far. This subject is very, very good to me. I like this kind of stuff. Why? Because I am, when it comes to temperaments, I am what you call the exacting, or I should say it this way. I'm the perfectionist pusher. And one of the strong tendencies of a perfectionist, my dad said, okay, I guess that means the jokes were okay. One of the strong tendencies of a perfectionist is pessimism. So I'm a perfectionist pusher. So I want perfection and I want it yesterday. I don't have a lot of patience. My mom knows that. My parents know that.
Your wife knows that.
I don't know if y'all heard that. Shar said my wife knows that. So I don't have a lot of patience. I want what I want. I want it the way I want it, and I want it yesterday. So that is. I talked to a marriage counselor one time, and they said that's the hardest temperament to be married to. I know you guys probably can't believe it because I'm just easygoing, lovable guy on the TV screen. But at the end of the day, pessimism is a dominant trait in my temperament. So the seduction of pessimism has a lot to. Pessimism has that's going to impact me a lot more than people that are not, right? That are not my temperament. So if you get into the temperaments or you want to look at the other tapes that we had, it's on there. But pessimism truly seduces us if we let it, right? It's easier to get on that train of negativity than it is to get on the train of positivity for a lot of people, right? Even if you think about it in the media, they have this saying, if it bleeds, it leads. So if somebody is hurt, shot, stabbed, then they say, you know what, we're going to lead with that because we know to get the ratings. Uh, think about the reality shows. And some people in this household, not me, look at the Housewives of Atlanta. And to me, all they do is argue. They argue back and forth every season. And at the end of the season, they have a little, I don't know, a little interview session where they talk to each other. And they kind of, a reunion show where they go back and they look at the clips where they're arguing with each other. But it's 14 seasons in. So evidently my opinion does not matter because it's a hit and everybody's making millions. So just think about it. The negativity is flourishing. And then you say, okay, I'm not into reality shows, but I'm into a show called Law and Order, Special Victims Unit. It's one of the longest running shows ever in the history of TV. And it's filled with rape, death, kidnappings, shootings. It's just terrible. But I want to say it's on the 22nd or 23rd season. So just the point is that negativity and pessimism really flourishes in our society. So one of the things that I think about is dangerous about being pessimistic, though. If we take it back to the person, I think it's dangerous. And one of the most dangerous things about being pessimistic is that most pessimistic people view bad events as permanent. They look at them as fixtures of life and unchangeable. Their lens is looked at from just a negative standpoint. When their mindset should be, this too shall pass. We don't look at it that way. We look at the world in a negative way a lot of times, and instead we should be looking at it like this situation is going to pass. It's not going to stay. This is a changeable situation, and so are the good times. They're changeable situations. Everything is moving. Everything is transitioning, I should say. But that's the danger of pessimism, is that you get stuck and you just think this is how life is. And I want to share this one story, and because I used to be in fast food. I was an owner operator with Sonic for years, and I spent 18 years doing this. And I don't even know how many stores. I have to sit down and write it down. But I ran a lot of stores. I ran stores in the suburbs, and I ran stores in the hood. And one person asked me what the difference was, and the only thing I can come up with was that when I was in the 90s, early 90s in Round Rock, opening up a store, I had a young fellow that worked with us, and he was going through some things, and he was in the corner. He was visibly upset. I mean, to the point where you thought he was suicidal. And I was like, hey, buddy, what's going on, man? You all right? And he says, no, I'm not all right. And I said, hey, so what's going on? He wouldn't even discuss it with me at first. I had to really keep pushing him. And he said, I got a 1550 on the SAT. And back then, I don't know what it is now, but back then a 1600 was a perfect score. So he's like upset. He is like somebody shot his dog in front of him and killed his closest relative. And it was because he got a 1550 on his SAT instead of a 1600, because he felt like he should have got perfect. And strong, super sharp guy, learned the switchboard in one day. And most people learn it in one day. But that was an example of what it was like in the suburbs for a young kid. Now in the hood, I used to run a store in the hood where, we had dumpsters where bums were in them, and we had babies killed and thrown into a dumpster, or we had a car get hijacked right there during lunch hour. And there was a young man another day at that store. He was upset. And I had to do the same thing. I had to push and find out what was wrong. And he said, my mom kicked me out. I don't know where I want to live. I don't know where I'm going to go after I get off of work. I have no idea. And that was to me, the difference between the suburbs and the ghetto, So, but at the end of the day, the feeling of being stuck, the negativity, looking at the situation where it's not transitional, it's just is stagnant. That's the problem with pessimism. So, and also in our society, and maybe you like to chime in on this, Shar, there's a big optimism gap between how people feel about their own lives versus how they feel about the world, which is kind of funny because the people are in the world. But when you ask people and do studies, they feel like life is from a optimism. They're about 6.5 out of 10, 10 being the most optimistic about their own personal life. But if they look at it from a world view, they're 4 out of 10. So the way they feel about the world, they're on the negative side. They're not even over the halfway mark of 5. They're 4 out of 10. And the thing that I always try to, especially being a person that's inclined for pessimism, I try to be the person that looks at facts because I can get stuck in the pessimism. If you guys are there, can you chime in? Are you naturally pessimistic or naturally optimistic? That's a question. And it's a question to make sure you guys are with me halfway through this because all I can see is a bunch of names. So if you could chime in, are you naturally pessimistic or naturally optimistic? And I'll wait a little bit and say a couple things while you guys chime in. But I have to look at stuff like, one of the biggest things when I was single and I used to have some relationship issues, I used to think, well, there's 7 billion people on this planet. I like my chances, right? I've only had, even if I had 50, it doesn't matter because 50, when you look at the grand scheme of things, is nothing. There's a lot of opportunity out there. And then you can also look at stuff like the lifespan of humans. If you're naturally pessimistic, the lifespan of humans used to be in the early 40s. Now we're in the early 80s. Other things to be optimistic about. If you make over 34,000 a year, you're in the top 1% globally. Can you imagine that? If you make 34,000 a year, you're in the top 1% globally. Now you ain't gonna feel like that in America, but the facts are the facts. Top 1% globally. So really, pessimism, we have to really watch it because our perspective can be off. So one of the things that I always wanted to, I have a section here saying overcoming pessimism because pessimism can get you stuck. If you can get you stuck where you sit in the bed and saying, hey, the world is not worth living. I remember I had a friend when I was younger. I had to be like 19 and I came back from California and one of my friends had killed himself because his ex-girlfriend wasn't giving him rights to see his daughter. So, and she said, no, you can't see your daughter. No, no, no. And he got to the point where he got so pessimistic. He went and started up the car, sat in the garage until he died. And the person that found him was his ex with the baby. So it's so important that we don't get stuck. And it seduces you. That's why it's called the seduction of pessimism. It seduces you, and you'll be riding that negative train to the end, without realizing if you don't stop and check in and realize that your perspective may be a little off. So the section we have, and it's 719, we would say Darts and I are extremely optimistic. Depends on the situation and circumstances. Aunt Stephanie, Karen, and Brenda say optimistic. And did you say? Oh, pessimistic with a bit of hopefulness. Okay, I see you up there. Pessimistic with a bit of hopefulness. And if you ever get a chance, take one of those temperament tests, or maybe you guys have. They're very helpful, in telling you what your natural bend is, right? But what do you do to overcome pessimism? What do you do to overcome pessimism? And the first one I would say is prepare. And what I think is one way to look at it is hope for the best and prepare for the worst, right? Because I'm going to automatically think of what could negatively happen, but it's best to hope for the best and then prepare for the worst. And who do we have on this call? Okay, we got a bunch of Christians on here, so I'm going to share this one real quick. But one of my biggest things when it comes to a person that has the right attitude that's opposite of pessimism, extremely optimistic, is a scripture where Joseph was in jail. And I can't remember, maybe y'all can chime in, but I want to say he was talking to the baker. The baker was sitting over very down on his luck, very upset. And he goes up to the guy and says, "What's wrong?" You know, very upbeat, happy. "What's wrong? You're living in the land of the awesome God," or something, he said. And I'm like, man, this guy just got thrown into prison, you know? And he not only is upbeat and cheerful, but he's also asking and concerned about a person whose face was downtrodden. So very, very powerful situation as far as a person that overcomes pessimism, just optimistic. But my example of my hiring philosophy, on the other hand, and it took me a while because I battled with this pessimism, optimism thing, is is when you're hiring people, I used to read these books and they said just know you're going to get what they gave other people. That's basically what all the books were telling me. Whatever they did in the past, you're going to get it. And I was like, man, that is so negative. And now at 50, I agree. Shar over there says she's learning. But I agree, and I don't think it's pessimism. I just think that's realistic. If a person been doing something a certain kind of way and had attitude or had problems and they're, for 10, 15, 20 years, they just a habit now. So, our goal is as a person that's hiring people is to hire the best option and to get the place to the place it needs to be. So we have to be a little bit of a gatekeeper and be a little bit on the pessimistic side, I guess you would say, to make sure we guard the house. But the next one is I really love. The first one is prepare. The next one is PERMA. So PERMA is basically a well-being model that they did in Australia. And this is powerful to me, very, very powerful. PERMA is an acronym, and the P stands for positive emotions. The E stands for engagement. The R is relationships. The M is meaning. And the A is accomplishment. So in Australia, they noticed that there were some issues with funding in music, and they realized that it was affecting the culture. So what they did was they did some studies in Australia, and they found out that there is a model for well-being. If a person wants to fight that pessimism and to be positive, there's a model for well-being. So what they did was they came up with this after a study. And I want to read this first section. But the first element of the PERMA model is positive emotions. And positive emotions such as hope, compassion, contentment, empathy, and gratitude. And the PERMA model is what they did when they start putting music in. They start putting music in the schools, and they really started doing team building. And with the music and the team building, they really changed the attitude of the school. They changed the culture of the school. The second element of PERMA is engagement, which concerns whether a person is deeply engaged in some kind of personal interest or hobby. And that was the music, right? And how they got along with each other. People were developing relationships because of the engagement. And relationship is the third one, deals with whether a person is able to build and maintain positive relationships. And especially in a school setting where we always hear about negative things a lot of times in a school setting, and that they feel connected and that they feel accepted. All this was surrounding music, which, when you think about it, music plays a big part about how we feel, right? Mother Brenda said, "Hey, I'm here." Thank you, Mother Brenda. The fourth and fifth one is elements are meaning and success or accomplishment, PERMA, meaning and accomplishment. So basically, a person found their purpose surrounded with this music, with these relationships, and they said, you know what, we're going to continue funding, trying to find other ways of funding to make sure these kids have music in their schools, which I find very enlightening because when I was younger, when I dealt with pessimism personally, there's a Jewish saying that says, "Hey, when the spirit of heaviness comes on you, lift up the garment of praise." So they would sing, and they would sing songs and shout to get over that pessimism or that negativity. So here we are, hundreds of years later, and they said, this stuff works, PERMA. So I hope you guys got something out of that. The next one, I really love that one. That was my favorite one. I feel like I can go home right now. The next one is practice mindfulness. And mindfulness is the practice of being aware of the elements of the present moment without being lost in the past or the future. Sounds easy, but it's not. Practice mindfulness. If I was to reword that, I would say live in the moment. Don't worry about what could possibly happen. Don't worry about what already has happened. Just live in the moment. Practice mindfulness. Ann said, I fully agree. The beat goes back to the heartbeat of empathy. My favorite being mindful. Um, and then it says, it's paying attention when the mind wanders to negative places where there is no creative outcome possible. When you start thinking there's no possibility, that's when you just put your head down and just work on whatever you're working on. Don't worry about what you think you know, because there's always creative force. And it kind of goes back to the things we talked about. Joseph is on. Good to see you, Joseph. Mindfulness, it kind of goes back to what we talked about with victims, because when you're practicing mindfulness, you're thinking creatively, right? And we always say the opposite of a victim is a creator. So practice mindfulness. And then the fifth one is perspective. And the job of a leader we talk about is to shape perspectives. And one of the stories I came across here this week was, and it was me and Shar listened to it, but I thought it was just, I thought, man, this was, I had to play it for her. I was like, man, you got to hear this. So I was reading, or I was listening to the audio book with Trevor Noah called Born a Crime. So Trevor Noah is this comedian, and I like him. He's a comedian. He's from South Africa and Born a Crime, and he's just talking about what it was like growing up. So as he's growing up, he went through some tragic events with his mom, and his mom ends up getting shot by her ex-husband. She gets shot in the back of the head. It comes through the front. It comes through her nostril. It goes right through her. She ends up living. She doesn't die, but at the time they thought they were going to die. She ends up living, and she was a very attractive lady. And she used to always make fun of her son because her son used to braid his hair up when he got older because he wanted to look cute. And she said, my boy looks too cute, but I'm still the most beautiful. So all growing up, when he was going through that, she used to always say that. So when he saw his mom sitting in that room, all bandaged up, with bandages all on the back of her head because she got shot, and bandages all in the front because the bullet went straight through her face, he was just sitting there crying. And she said, Trevor, her name was Patricia. She said, Trevor, look at the bright side. And Trevor was like, man, what is the bright side, Mom? You could have died. And she says, well, the bright side is that you're for sure the best looking person in the family now. So the person, to me, that was hilarious for a person to have that type of perspective and to turn that thing around and to look at it in another way. And it changed the way he looked at it, because you can tell he has perfectionist tendencies too. So he changed the way they looked at it, and they ended up just laughing about the whole situation. And it was a terrible situation. If you guys are into that kind of stuff, I mean, you can listen to it. Trevor Noah, Born a Crime, because it was a crime for his parents to get together and have him. So they used to. It's a powerful story. You just have to read it. Extreme hopefulness. So it's 7:29. Let me know if you got anything out of this. The Seduction of Pessimism. The Seduction of Pessimism. And definitely something last week it was dealing with something. This week is overcoming it. We can overcome pessimism, and I'm a witness. I can tell story after story where you feel like, there is a dead end, but at the end of the day, you just keep going, man. You just keep moving. Just keep moving. So Ann said laughter is the best medicine. Let me know at 7:30. Please like and share. Sharda, I forget anything besides like and share?
Quote.
Oh, my quote. It's I don't know what that is. It's some kind of issue where I have to read this because I don't remember it. But one of the things we always want to say at the end, be intentional, focus on growth, and elevate now. Thank you for coming, guys. You guys have Stephanie said a 1. Appreciate it. Post your if you got anything out of it, really appreciate it. The Seduction of Pessimism. You guys have a good one.